Hello, dear friends of Congregation Shaar Hashomayim. I'm speaking to you from my home in Jerusalem, where we have actually had a heat wave here for the last 5 days, and also wait with anticipation for all the isolation to finish and for us to come back to our normal lives again. I would like to start this discussion on community with a story. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks, the former chief rabbi of Great Britain, tells a story that during his tenure as chief rabbi, he met on a few occasions with Prime Minister Tony Blair. And Blair was a religious man and still is, and a man of the book. And he said to Rabbi Sacks, would you like to meet to talk about the Bible? Rabbi Sacks said, it would be an honor. You're Prime Minister of my country. And they met. And for quite a while, they were meeting on a weekly basis, studying the Bible together. Well, they were reading the book of Shemot, of Exodus, and they came towards the end. And then Mr. Blair said to Rabbi Sacks, he said, here it comes again, that boring stuff. And Rabbi Sacks says, what are you referring to? He says, well, you know, talking about the tabernacle and how they built it and every piece, it really does seem to go on. Rabbi Sacks said to Prime Minister Blair, he says, that's true. But let me tell you why, what I think. He says, please do. He says, look, let me put it this way. When God created the universe, it's recorded in the book of Genesis in 22 verses. And now we're reading about the building of the temple. It's given 4.5 portions in the Torah, in Hebrew, parshiyot. Obviously, for the infinite God to build a finite world, it's easy, 22 verses. But for a finite person to create a house for the infinite God, that's really difficult. After telling this story, Rabbi Sacks said, even though I gave him an answer, the question really bothered me for a long time. And eventually I wrote a whole book about it, he said. He said, because what I realized was that there's the idea of creating the tabernacle, the Mishkan, was really a brilliant idea. You see, the 12 tribes coming out of Egypt had to look for some uniting factor. The 12 tribes and the multitude, the Erev Rav of the Egyptians, the mixed multitude, they needed something to unite them. And how do you unite people? They need a shared cause. So by having everybody get involved in the building of the tabernacle, by giving money, by supporting, by the motivation, so this shared cause helped to bring these tribes together. And Rabbi Sacks said, community needs a shared cause in order to bring it together, in order for it to unite. What is the meaning of community from a Jewish point of view? Well, we have 3 different types of Kiddusha. We have Kiddushin, when a man and a woman decide to create a family together. You have the word holiness. That's the first type of community, which is the family nucleus. Then we have another one called Kiddusha, which is something we say in the prayers, the Kiddusha, which you need at least a quorum of 10 men. You need a community in order to experience this Kiddusha, this sanctity of prayer. And then you have another one, which is called Kaddish, which is a prayer that we say over a direct relative who was deceased, also uses the term Kiddusha, sanctity. And my interpretation of this is that there are 3 types of communal sanctities. One of them, of course, is Kiddushin. It's the family nucleus, which is its own type of community. The second one is the Kiddusha itself, meaning the prayer that we say in the Shemona Esrei together with the community, meaning there's the holiness of community, there's holiness of family and holiness of community. And then there's the Kaddish, which is the holiness of the realization that we are all one long line of being from the previous generations to the generations that will be. The link of this generations also is a certain type of Kedusha, and therefore we have this special prayer. So in that sense, Judaism is very community-oriented. And because we're community-oriented, I think we've had a difficult time during the coronavirus, which has really isolated the possibilities of community. And I think one of the things we've discovered, or at least I think I've discovered during this time, is that you have two concepts of community going on. Communities that need edifices and communities that don't. Remember, when the Torah says to build the Mishkan, to build the tabernacle, God says through Moses, Ubanuli mikdash, they shall build me a temple, v'shachanti b'tocham, but I shall dwell in their midst, not in the temple's midst. The temple is the tool to bring the people together so that God can dwell within the people. But sometimes people think that the idea of the temple is an authoritarian to tell the people what to do. These mistakes happened in the first temple. When Jeremiah told the people that the temple might be destroyed, they said, how can it be? Heichal Hashem Hema. It's the oracle of God. He's not going to destroy his own house. Jeremiah said, remember what happened to Shiloh? Could happen again in Jerusalem. And Isaiah went on to saying, who needs these sacrifices? I didn't ask you for that when we left Egypt. So you have people see community as authoritarian, and they're the ones, I think, who don't understand that sometimes community must disband in times like now. But then there's community which is shared responsibility. And this type of community can survive even when the edifice is not at its service and at its use. At this point, I also want to commend the Shaar Hashomayim community, which has beautifully proven that even when the edifice is locked with lock and key, there's beautiful outreach to the community, to the elderly, who are not only helped with meals, but also with people calling up and asking how they are, to people stuck at home who need food, who maybe don't have the means. This beautiful outreach program, which has been going on at the Shaar during this time, I think is the epitome of the paradigm of community of shared responsibility. So what I would like to say then is one other idea. You see, Emmanuel Levinas, who was a Jewish-born French philosopher, said that why does the verse say in Leviticus, Ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha ani Hashem? Why does it say in Vayikra, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, I am God? What is the addition, I am God? You can say, love your neighbor as yourself. What Levinas said was, the problem of human beings is that we're egocentric. Possibly rightly so. We're worried about ourselves. We're worried about our own problems. It's really hard for us to look out of our shells and see somebody else out there. But a person who is able to walk out of their 4 cubits of egocentricity and realize there's somebody else out there who actually has pain, somebody else out there who might have problems even more than my own, and be sensitive to it, then you have discovered God. Then Ani Hashem. Then I, God, am also interested. Because if you realize that there's somebody else outside your 4 cubits, then you can also come in interface with God too. So this idea of community, of shared responsibility, is something as we approach Shavuot, the holiday, which is called the holiday of Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, where the Jewish people stood united, Am echad b'lev echad, as one nation, like one man and one heart. So again, we try to understand through these difficult days the inner meaning of shared responsibility and community, and how it will bring Kedusha into our lives and the lives of others too. And I wish everyone Chag Sameach.